Automation, automation, automation. Everyone's talking about it, but it's really important to understand what type of automation actually is right for you and your clients. This is the NJCPA IssuesWatch podcast. Welcome back to the NJCPA IssuesWatch podcast. I'm your host, Stein Smith, covering everything tech related, from blockchain to crypto to AI and automation here on this episode. So I'm most amped to be here covering these topics, both on a informational point of view and also trying to really translate those headlines and topics into actionable business items for you and your colleagues and ultimately external clients. So I'm going to hop right into it. So there is a ton of conversation happening in the accounting world, be it in public, be it in industry, nonprofit, tax, audit, advisory, all the rest. And the main thrust of this is how can we collectively harness the upside and opportunities of this onslaught of automation, right? Right, because pretty much every podcast, every journal, every conference, every newsletter has been talking about automation in our field for easily the last 20, 30 years. But I would say really post 2020, post 21, there has been a real uptick in the pace of automation and the comprehensiveness of the tools out there. So how do we try to analyze both those trends and try to understand how to incorporate them into our firms? So I figured I would cherry pick a few high profile items, high profile topics, and try to do just that. So a obvious hot topic to kind of start any conversation around automation is one AI, right? AI overall. And so it's really, really critical, I think, to understand that AI is an overarching term, right? It's an overarching umbrella term, like pizza, like blockchain. AI is a very broad term and can mean any number of things, depending on the firm, on the client, and the industry in question. And also, just a quick sort of PSA here. Anytime that any client is, trying to automate, thinking about automating or otherwise changing how they handle data, it's always important to make sure that in that industry, automation in the way planned is actually possible, like for healthcare data. Okay. And so adding on to that, the first thing I always talk about in AI is what kind of AI are we actually talking about, right? Weak AI, strong AI, or this more, you know, conceptual idea of AI as a self-learning, self-teaching sort of robot to help us do things on its own. Okay. And the most obvious sort of product in the marketplace that has captured most of the uh, business world and world in general's focus over the last 12 months or so is the rise of Gen AI, basically AI that's able to interact with us and do so in a human-like manner, right? And the obvious example here is the chatbot, ChatGPT. And I know that I've covered this topic previously on an episode, so please do be sure to have a quick peek at that if you have not. But really, sort of the rise of these chatbots and automation tools driven by AI really has highlighted one, sort of how far the expectation and the mindset of the average person is with AI versus current market reality. And so that's always something that's really important to manage, both inside the firm and outside the firm. Meaning that everybody has ideas and a perception of how AI works, how comprehensive it is, and how easy it is to implement. And so it really does fall on us as advisors and as those business partners to make sure that both inside our firm, that our staff, our managers, directors, and all the way up, as well as our clients, understand that yes, having those concepts, having those end goals are great, but in order to actually get there and to capture the opportunities of automation and AI as advertised, there are going to be iterations of that process along the way. And so a common question that I've been hearing quite a bit lately is what happened to this hype around ChatGPT, right? Right back last fall of 2022, it burst into the mainstream. It was the fastest app to ever gain 100 million active users. It was a tidal wave of ChatGPT everywhere, all the time, forever. And then now, just under 12 months later, it's obviously still here in the marketplace, being talked about, being implemented, but the hype seems to have died down. And having that hype die down or ebb and flow is a totally normal attribute of any uh, emerging tool, right? Yeah, blockchain, crypto, and AI are all sort of mirroring each other. There's hype, there's troughs, there are failures, and then ultimately, there's adoption by large institutions and integration into mainstream everyday life. And so, just a few quick items here for firms, managers, or conversations with the clients trying to implement ChatGPT or some other version based on that model, right? Because it's always good to keep in mind that although for us on an everyday basis in our personal lives, right, the sort of default option has turned into ChatGPT from a enterprise side, it's the total opposite. Most large enterprises have banned employees from using ChatGPT and are actively trying to build out their own versions. And there are obviously, differences based on the industry, but just having that background in place is always a good place to start any of these conversations. And then ultimately, right, as more and more users got to use ChatGPT, it also became obvious that one, its knowledge base is not total, right? It is not entirely up to date, nor is it well informed on every single topic. And a quick anecdote, I believe it was back in August 2023. The NY Times had a piece where a lawyer had used ChatGPT to write his court briefing or court filing, and had taken it, had not checked it, brought it to court, and it was full of all kinds of fake court cases, bad precedent, and just totally wrong information. And so that's really what happened, right? That it's a great tool, very powerful, being used by quite a few firms as we speak, but it is not perfect and it is not sort of that sort of magic potion, right? That all of us hoped and do hope that every new tool is. And so that's really what happened there. But it 100% is still out there, good to learn about, talk about, think about, and try to integrate that into your firms or to your client services as you can. Okay. And so adding on to that, how are firms building out automation or how are they allocating funds to automation? And obviously, each firm is different, but for our industry in accounting, just in, I believe it was early September 2023, EY basically launched or announced their $1.4 billion project around AI in their enterprise. And as a part of that, they are launching their own AI platform. They are also launching their own version of a chatbot powered by EY AI acronyms, right? Gotta love it. And so all of that really indicates to me, and I'm sure all uh, of just anecdotally, that there are firms, pretty much every firm across the board is investing in automation, right? And there are any number of external causes for that. Pipeline issues are always a big thing, right? Right? Because as those issues exist, and I know efforts are underway to try to not solve overnight, but to try to address the pipeline concerns. But the actuality is that right now there aren't enough trained, educated bodies coming into the field. And so as firms try to increase revenue, grow, or to have partners trying to exit their firms, right? There is this external push to automate more and more and more. And so that's where really the bulk of automation is happening in most firms, right? And every firm is different and every external client is different. But there are two main areas that I've seen automation really sort of take hold. And obviously there's tons of articles, podcasts, and all the rest on this too, right? And so one, it's automating those base level tasks that one don't add any value, aka are not revenue generating, and two aren't really interesting to new hires entering our field, right? So items like obviously journal entries, bank recs, cash recs, confirmations, inventory recs, any of those tasks that absolutely have to happen, but are not creating revenue, are not valued by the client, and are not interesting to our new hires. So those base level tasks, right? So that's one. Two is the customer or the client engagement side, meaning, and I'm sure anybody watching this knows that a big chunk of your day at work can be easily consumed with follow-ups, touching base, circling back, meetings, phone calls, voicemails, messages, Slack messages, text messages, all the rest. So that's also a big area I've seen firms trying to automate, not all of it, right? But to automate some of those more, periodic updates. And every client and every firm has follow-ups, checkpoints, processes that every quarter, every week, every month have certain things that have to happen, right? Whether I'm asking for information, getting information, or am on a project where every 2 weeks I have to check it. If I can automate that and have that off my plate, one, I'm not doing it every day. Two, it's off my mind, so I have more bandwidth to actually do more client-facing work to build out new service lines. And then three, uh, I won't miss it, right? That I won't forget or miss a check-in or a touch point, either internally or externally. And so that's really where I've seen the bulk of the assets going for automation at this time. And it's always good to keep in mind that in terms of automation at large, on the one hand, it has been happening for decades in every aspect of accounting and finance, but in this current iteration of automation tools, we're really still very, very early. And so as you automate more and more of these mundane back office admin tasks, that is going to allow current staff and future staff to actually take on more work, higher value work, and allow the firm itself to automate more and more going forward. And so, okay, fine. But in terms of automation, what are we actually talking about here? And echoing back to that point earlier, automation, AI are both umbrella terms, right? They're tossed around quite a bit. Everybody acts like they know exactly what they mean, but is not always the exact case. And so, there are any number of ways to break it down. I try to break it down into automation, baseline automation, or sort of rules-based automation. And, so that harkens back to the early days of automation. Anybody who heard of expert systems or the master systems, that's basically what sort of baseline automation is. It's rules-based or task-based automation. And so that's really where a lot of the low-hanging fruit still is in a lot of firms, right? Right, because our industry and a big chunk of our work is doing things at certain times with certain clients in a certain way. And obviously, every client is different, but the underlying process driving a lot of our work doesn't really change that much. And so that's that first level of automation that I call it baseline automation, but there are other labels out there too. So then, moving forward from that, RPA, robotic process automation. I call it bot-driven automation, and I call it that right because anytime that the word robot is tossed in, people automatically think hardware and having robots in the office and all the rest. And it's not that. It's bot-driven automation. And there are a few firms out there who have actually quite cleverly incorporated a bot into their name. I won't name names, but sort of that bot-driven automation is this idea of using bots, be they interactive with us, like ChatGPT, or more of a virtual assistant. Calendar organizing, email organizing, meeting organizing, follow-up organizing. Uh, Anecdotally, I was just at a event yesterday, and a partner at KPMG, I forget which office he's out of, but a partner at KPMG uses a version of a ChatGPT every single day to go through his inbox, sort his emails, summarize his emails, and then after summarizing, create a to-do list for him and indicate who that item is for. And so on the surface, really easy stuff, but how much time is that bot-driven automation saving? And obviously valuable time, right? At the partner level, every minute counts. And so even having bot-driven automation save half an hour or a couple hours a week, that adds up a lot and it builds on itself. It's a accretive process for sure. And so then all the way over here, we have baseline automation, bot-driven automation, and then AI. And AI is the flavor of the month. There are headlines on every business network on AI this, AI that. Every keynote speech or your conference your speech in 2023 is somebody going on stage saying AI and leading. And so AI is the ultimate end goal, right? For every CEO, entrepreneur, manager, director, partner. But it's really, really important to understand what type of AI is actually the best fit for you or your external client. And then three, what aspects of business are going to be integrated or integrate rather AI. And so that's a whole other episode and a whole other conversation. But again, think about what tasks do you really want to automate with an AI solution? Are those tasks in need of an AI solution, or is it more of a rules-based automation or a bot program? For now, that's actually a better fit. And then three, how do you integrate that into how you interact with your clients, right? Because as you're onboarding automation and probably connecting with external third parties, obviously all of that has to be done in a transparent manner, both internally, right? Training your staff and making sure that you have buy-in on that staff level. And then three, also making sure to engage and to be transparent and to make sure that your clients understand how this integration changes how their data is handled on a ongoing basis. And then honestly, right there at the bottom, how should we talk to our clients or colleagues, right? Because automation by its nature tends to bring a certain level of apprehension, right? Both both for the people who are directly impacted by this for obvious reasons, right? So anybody being told that 40% of their job is going to be automated in the next 8 weeks, that's obviously going to cause some anxiety for that person, right? And so how do we, as hopefully pro automation folks, how do we have those conversations, right? Outline what tasks are being automated and how that helps these people, these staff, the managers, whomever, get to do more interesting work, higher level work, client facing work, and ultimately add more value to the firm, hopefully on themselves also. So that's the real thing. how to be clear, transparent, objective, and reasonable as to how these automation projects are going to drive changes at the firm, then how quickly those changes are going to be felt are really critical steps that I've seen either make or break uh, automation projects. And so I hope that everybody enjoyed my little automation update here today. I know I did. I love talking about automation. It's a fascinating topic. There really are so many tools out there right now that all of us can access at every budget level. And so I highly encourage everybody here today, if you are not already a member of the NJCPA Emerging Tech Interest Group, please do sign up at njcpa.org/groups. And all of the episodes of Issues Watch are available on social media and also at njcpa.org/podcast. Thanks. Have an awesome day.